pat on brands. Watch how you branded, man. A pat on the back is a pat from the man. Better be branded, man.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon and good afternoon to Imbokodo across the whole nation, the world, wherever you are. I'd like to say welcome to you guys, especially to the women. And I'd also like to welcome all the gentlemen that are tuning in today in our live chat. I do hope you guys learn one or two things during the dialogue we have today. Before we do continue, I'd like to thank Thokozani Mahlangu, the CEO of Unspoken Agency, and the actual owner of this very platform. Thank you so much for allowing us to, to share insights with women during this month of August, and I hope it will be a very prosperous month for all of us. Today, and I'll be your host, my name is Hazel Shozi. I'm 28 years of age, and I have experience from agency as well as corporate, and currently working as a communications manager within the customer experience segment at MTN South Africa. And now to introduce you to a very, very special guest, Mathe Okaba. Yes, Mathe, guys, is a very seasoned business professional and entrepreneur with over 23 years. Whew, that's a lot, across advertising, media, and sponsorship, as well as events industries. She started her career in advertising and progressed into media, where she spent a number of years at the SABC, eventually taking on a role as the general manager for the broadcaster's flagship station, SABC 3. Looking to spread her wings, Mathe moved on into the financial services industry as a senior sponsorship and events manager prior to actually exploring her own entrepreneurial abilities. So she launched a holding company that provided communication, design, media solutions, media and some extra solutions to her clients. It is here where she actually focused on her core abilities, which was strategy development, execution, as well as business acquisition. Within the industry, growth is very paramount to Mathe, and therefore she encourages and is a very big driver and involves herself with smaller industries and players within our advertising and communication space. Mathe is currently working towards her MBA at the University of Roehampton in the UK. She holds a qualification in advertising from the School of Advertising, which is also known as AAA. She also earns a couple of certificates from Wits Business School as well as Gibbs. So that is Mathe, guys, in a nutshell. It's actually a lot. I had to summarize this very wonderful profile of a woman. And I'd like to say welcome to you again, Mathe. Thank you for joining us today. So, Mathe, since it is a virtual call and we've never been privy to meeting before this call, I'd like to make sure by the time it ends, you know me and I know you better. So I think just to start off our conversation, I'm going to tell our audience a bit more about me and just very short and short. So I grew up in a township known to a very few as Gwandengezi. I was raised by a domestic worker, and let's just say fate and grace basically got me here. I was the last of 4 kids, and because my mom worked for a white family back in the times, and we weren't really privy to certain information. A lot of us probably would have been now, compared to then. So during a time when a black child was supposed to be, born in a certain place, raised in a certain place, you'd have to get married there, die there eventually, I was obviously exposed to English at a very young age because I obviously spent so much time in Zulu. So I spent a huge part of my childhood journey with my mom, and experiencing life along with with her workers. And so every school holiday, every Christmas, every birthday that I had, I would receive 100 Rand notes in an envelope. And my mom would require me to actually write back to her workers to say thank you, to say how grateful I was, to say, what am I going to do with the money? All of that. And mind you, I was a young one. I mean, I was probably in primary. I was in grade 3 and stuff. So I started writing at a very early age. And just in summary, that is exactly how I ended up in communications. You know, I decided to go for what I was strong at. I was strong at writing and reading. And I was like, you know what, let's go do communications. So this is me here and now. And I want to feed off and know your story, Mathe. Do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself with us?
Oh my goodness. I've got lots to share. So I've got to compartmentalize it and package it and make it smaller.
Sure.
I grew up in the 70s, 80s. When I say that, you've got to say you don't look it. That's what you got to say. All right. I grew up in the 70s, 80s, but my mother was a hard worker. And her being, I was raised by my mother as a single parent, and which means she educated me. She ensured that I went to the right schools at the time, and I got the right education. And luckily, I was privileged enough to start school in a private school. So education for me, since grade 0 until matric, I was educated in private schools. So I was fortunate enough to get that kind of education and to get that one up. And not from an arrogance point of view, just from an education point of view. And with that trajectory, but I grew up in Soweto, born and bred. I was in the streets, and when there was strikes, we would wear our own uniform and not wear our school uniform to get into the school bus, and people would be stoning us. But that was our life, you know, when we were growing up. But we still went to school because to our parents, education was very important, because education was the thing that created access for you. And now I understand it when I'm sitting where I'm sitting right now. Had I not had that education, I wouldn't be where I am. All right. Thereafter, like you succinctly said, I went to the AAA School of Advertising, and I'm not a very studious kind of person. Right now, I'm trying to do my master's. It's the hardest thing on earth, you know. So going to AAA was a good thing. I got an education and a post-matric education, but without having to go to university, all right? But now I was like, in my 40s, let me do my master's. Damn, do I regret it. Anyway, I'm doing it. And I'm going to finish it at some point.
Yes.
But then I was also fortunate enough that my education also led me to very fortunate careers. I mean, when I was in matric, nobody was doing advertising. Black kids were not going to study advertising because Black kids were meant to be teachers, doctors, lawyers, nurses. Those were the career options that were available to us. And then I said to my mother, how? No, this is not going to happen. Then when I told my headmaster, you know, we then had these career sessions. What are you going to do after matric? I was like, no, I'm going into advertising. And then he was like, that's a business for liars. Why would you go into a business for liars? I was like, because I want to be a professional liar, you know? So that's what happened. So it was not seen. And my mother thought I was going to go and draw pictures. That's what my mother thought I was going to do. And she didn't understand it, but eventually I then did it. After doing it, I spent a good 7 years in the ad industry and a good 7 years as a media strategist, because strategy was my thing, research, numbers. I love that kind of discipline. But then in the light of working on brands, multiple brands, working with different clients, the environment was still not ready for a great black girl, you know, and was not ready for a great black girl because the K word was being used against me. And I'm not going to do any work because that K is not going to tell me what to do. This is white women who were talking like that. My boss, who was a white male, when it came to me reporting this, nothing was done about it. And I was like, who's ready for us? Nobody is ready for us. I was like, you know what? Screw this. Let me go work with my people. And I then left and I went to work with my people at the SABC. Okay. And when I got there, I was so happy. It was an environment where 90% of the people who worked at the SABC were my skin color, you know? Even in high positions, they were my skin color, you know? And I'll give you a little anecdote that happened to me when I started at SABC2. SABC2 was a traditionally Afrikaans and Sotho station. Yes. And there were a lot of Afrikaans males in that environment. And they would get up, dit gaan, hierso Afrikaans. That's what they used to speak, all right? Because they were also exclusionary, because they could see the day is coming where the SABC will be 100% black, even in Afrikaans content. So they were very
defensive and they were fighting.
Yeah, and pushing you out there. One day I was like, okay, they put up Afrikaans presentations. I did my presentation in Sesotho and I put it up. Next time I had a meeting with those Afrikaans men, I spoke Sesotho in presenting that to show them that not everybody, and it's not that I didn't understand Afrikaans. Afrikaans, remember, was always the language that for my generation was not the language that we wanted to be spoken to in. It's not a language that is part of my DNA. Sure. I'm against it. So why do you continue do that to me, understanding the history? So I was like, okay, I'll pull a Rainbow Nation on you. All 11 official languages. I will speak Sesotho with you in the boardroom. Let's see what happens now. And let's see if you understand. So for me, that then became the dynamics of the SABC. But eventually, the SABC, everywhere you turned, were people like us, you know? But it was a great environment back in the day. Please, pre what you guys know now. It was a beautiful and creative environment where we created beautiful content. And when you look at it now, you might think it's not beautiful content, but back in the day, it was beautiful content. And it was content that reflect who we are as a people. And yes, some of it was a bit right-wing or a bit left-wing, but it was entertainment nonetheless, all right? Then I left the SABC, and then I went to a financial company. Ooh, those people are boring. Yeah. Anyway, in that environment, you know, when you're used to thinking out the box, pushing things, being creative, anything, the world is your oyster kind of thing. Then you get into this thing where there's a formula, and this is the formula, and stick within the formula. Then I had an aversion to that. It just did not work with my soul. It just, and also when things don't work with your soul in a certain environment, then you become this person who's seen as a non-performer, doesn't know what they're doing, because you're not putting your best foot forward. It's like, oh, I hate going to work, and you still go to work. I hate. So if I can advise anybody anything, don't ever get into an environment where you don't enjoy it. Life is about enjoying what you do, because when you enjoy what you do, you become the best at what you do. But when you don't enjoy it, you do it with a sore heart, you know, every time you wake up, you're like, oh my God, do I have to go to work? You know? And that happened to me. I experienced that. Left Old Mutual. Then after leaving Old Mutual, and I left Old Mutual with no job. Please note. So I was like, okay, what do I do? I was like, oh, screw this. I'm going to take the little money that I have, and my daughter and I are going to travel the United States of America. So I took her, because I also lived there for a little bit. So I took her to the places that I lived in, showed her around, and she was around 8 years old, 9 years old at the time. So I showed her around, and we drove from one state to another. So it was a fantastic 1 month trip that we did. Then I came back. When I came back, I was diagnosed with cancer. I had cancer. I'm a cancer survivor as I sit here. And that journey had to happen to me. The cancer journey had to happen to me. And I don't ever say, why did this happen to me? It had to happen to me in order for me to reflect on certain fundamentals in my life. Sure. And in that reflection process, it made me a better person. A better version of myself was birthed out of my cancer journey. So for me, that's why that journey, I give it a hug, I give it love, because it produced the Mathe you see today and the better version of Mathe today. Oh. Then thereafter, struggling with cancer for 3 years, I then joined the ACA as the CEO of the ACA. It's the best job I've ever had. Best job I've ever had. I don't want to lie to you. I'm doing what I love. I'm doing what I love. And I even say to people have offered me jobs in other places where they pay more money, but it's not about the money for me. It's always about, and I think going through a terminal illness, it reminds you, never do things for money. Always do things for the love of it. Always do things that make you grow inside, that make you blossom. Don't do things just for money, because money, you know when you've got it, and even if you get an increase of 20,000 Rand, that increase will never be enough in 6 months' time, because you get expenses that make up that extra 20,000 Rand, and you're not able to then say, okay, why am I here? You know, because you hate your job, you hate what you're doing, but you've got the more money, but you are depressed, you don't want to go to work. So money is never a solution. Joy is the solution. So I'm doing what I love right now, and I want to make a difference in my profession and in my industry. So that's my story. It was very long.
But it's a very beautiful story, Mathe. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's really amazing, and I think we do celebrate women like you, and that's why we needed you on this platform. We want all those juices of, you know, that you just touched on now.
Yeah.
We'll get to it shortly. So I just want to jump into maybe just perhaps the question of, you know, reaching your level of success, you know, given the gender gap in the workplace, women being promoted on results versus men being promoted on, you know, potential. You have potential in leadership. Can you just shed some light on, you know, how is that journey? How has that been?
You know, that journey is actually very real, you know, because for as long as, maybe because I've never been a non-performer per se, I'm always about excellence in what I do. All right. Did I get my opportunities based on the fact that it was me against a man? I've never been in that kind of situation. Okay. So I can't even pretend to say, and all my bosses have been female. Most of my bosses, all my bosses have been female. Actually, now when I track back, all my bosses have been female. So there's never been a situation where it's me against a boy or me against a man, and not so much a boy, but a man. It's never been that. It's always been, Mathe, what kind of work have you produced in your history? And when I say, look at this, look at that, look at that, they're like, oh my God, you've actually done amazing work. And when they compare it to my other colleagues that are sitting, and I'll give SABC as an example, when they compared it to other people that were sitting on SABC 2, SABC 1, SABC 3, they were like, oh my God, you do amazing work, you know? And that's how then I was promoted to become the general manager of SABC 3, and I ran the channel. So for me, it's always been about the work, but I know that it does exist where men, just because he knows how to kumsha, he knows how to play golf, he knows how to smoke a cigar, he knows how to socialize better, he gets the opportunities because the person he's smoking the cigar with is the gatekeeper that can open. Whereas if I went out with the gatekeeper, it might be a different kind of story.
Yeah.
It would be, yes, because either it's about, am I flashing my boobs? Am I willing to sleep with the gatekeeper? Am I willing? Nah. Those are the things that emanate from being a woman, that happen when you are a woman, you know? And it's really very sad because lots of us as women, and you look at what's happening in the world right now. Look at the one country that is led by women in terms of this pandemic, New Zealand. What happened? You know, what is the trajectory of that? You know, but there are not enough women leaders globally. There are not enough women leaders because we are too emotional. We are, you know, we've got all these labels that they have attached to us. And these labels that have been attached to us follow us wherever we go.
Yeah.
As professionals, as mothers, as sisters, as wives, those labels follow us wherever we go. Sorry, I think I went off on another tangent.
No, though, that is so true, though. You made some very valid points, you know, about the labels that come with it, you know, and I think that then means that we have to work, you know, twice as harder. Hopefully, you know, these are things that we hope to see change in the coming years, and I think that's going to also help a lot of people watching today. That you know, what do you do actually? It takes me to my next question, which is, as a female leader, what have you seen as being the most significant barrier in your career? And if you were to offer advice to a younger you, what would it be? So I think just to add some meat onto that question is that I'm young and I don't have any mentor currently. And, you know, some of these things you just learn as you go along the way. And I'll also get to that mentorship question, but I just want to know, as a leader, what are some of the, you know, the barriers that you feel like you've met and you've, you know, come across, and you've been able to actually just move them aside and actually charter into, you know, where you are now? What does that mean as a leader?
You know, I think the first barrier is being a woman
itself.
Yeah,
sure.
That is the barrier, because I'm not seen as an intelligent individual that can bring a type of business acumen, some business acumen on the table, and to lead an organization to be profitable, to lead an organization to be global. That's not when principals see me, and principals are usually men. Let's be honest with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And when principals see me, they see a woman first before they see what can she do, what are her abilities. And then the barrier, another obstacle, once I've superseded the fact that I'm a woman who can think and talk, and once I've gone over that, is how desperate am I to climb the career ladder?
Okay.
Am I desperate enough for my principals to say, Mathe, what about dinner tomorrow night? You know, am I that desperate? And I've had it happen to me. But because I'm a stubborn little angry black girl, what, all those labels, because I'm that, it never got anywhere, you know? Because for me, it was like, once you cross that line, you become that person. And you will always be labeled, oh, she got up here because she slept with the CEO.
Yeah.
Oh, she got up here because she slept with the CFO. You will always be that person. So understand, when you cross that line, you can never go back. Because trust me, that man is not only talking to his friends about you, he's talking to everybody who's willing to listen. Okay. Sorry, I have a little daughter in my, okay. Who keeps on running. So we need to understand that once you cross that barrier, or that obstacle of who do you want to define yourself as in the eyes of men, or in the eyes of then becomes a situation where you're known as that girl. You are known, that's your label, and it will be your label forever, and you to shake off that label is going to be the hardest thing ever. So sexual harassment is a big thing in business, and men use that against us, especially ambitious women. They use it against us to say, all right, are you that ambitious? Oh, you want to be the next manager of sales? Yeah. Okay, this is what you need to do. Let's go out for dinner and we'll talk about it at dinner. You know, I will, before I went to the States, I'll give you a little bit of a window into what happened to me. Okay. Before, my company had awarded me a position in New York to go and work in New York. Before I left for that position, in New York, the most senior person in the organization said to me, Mathe, we can fly first class together, and I will fly with you to New York, and we'll spend your first week there. I will show you around New York. I was like, what? Huh? What? And if I was utategile, I would have gone with it. Do you know what I'm saying? And had I gone with it, trust me, the world would have been my oyster, but at an expense. At an expense. So I was like, no, I'm okay. I can sit like this. It's okay. I will get to New York. I'll do what I need to do, go work there and come back, and without first class, I don't need to experience the first trip. You're right. So these things happen all the time.
All the time. It's crazy, and I'm even just now thinking, you go through that from the top, and also experience it from the bottom now. The people that you're actually leading now. Those who have misconceptions, what they think you are, what you present yourself to be, that you shouldn't because you're black. Hello, you need to remember, and I just want to chat to that. What are some of the misconceptions, you've kind of, seen from being in leadership? What do people in leadership? Is it positive? Is it negative? As a black person, what kind of normal misconceptions do you deal with on it,
You want me to oust my black people, you?
I want to open the can.
Leadership is a very, very tricky situation. And a tricky situation in the sense that when you're a leader, especially a black female leader, I'm about ensuring young black people are taught the right things, mentored the right way, grow in a profession or in our industry, and they're given the right guidance, all right? But then you come across a dynamic of, we are Black.
Yeah.
Can you see that dynamic?
Yeah.
We are Black, so you need to back me up, protect me, look after me, and do all of that whilst I do useless work. And for me, that's where I draw the line.
Okay.
Because excellence, what makes you a good leader is producing people who produce excellent work.
Okay.
But if you're going to produce mediocre work, trust me, I will performance manage you, I will fire you. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter the fact that you're Black. And it doesn't matter that your mother was my mother. Doesn't matter. All right? I'm a leader in my own right. I have my own integrity. I have my own integrity. I have my own reputation to build. And if I don't do that,
yes.
Sorry, my daughter's going out. So yeah.
I love your daughter.
So I've got to make sure and ensure that those things, my credibility is important. My credibility being important, I've got to ensure that the people I rise with are the with me merit, not with because Blackness won't take you far if you're not able to perform.
And that's actually very, I speak of that, especially that merit. We often saw, yes, being where we come from and all our different circumstances and stuff, but also self-pity can really get into the way of you moving forward. Black and you're given leadership positions. So thank you for sharing some lights over there. That is really interesting. I have actually a lot of questions here coming in from our viewers. Okay, so guys, I will be answering and taking questions in the last 15 minutes of this chat, this dialogue. So do not despair. We can see your questions. And then just going forward, I think on that same breath, do you have any advice for that young person that wants to be aspiring to be in a leadership position, or those that are currently in a leadership position? What advice would you give? I know when I start asking questions like this, I'm very close to that question because I want to hear personally, what is it? You find yourself in very challenging positions, and is this the time to be friendly? Is this time to be really straight to the point? And if I am straight to the point, what is the backlash I'm going to experience, in the boardroom if I speak against something and I want to give a better solution, So what advice would you give to a young professional in looking to be in leadership and as senior as CEO? That is like, the God, like, please.
For me, I think as my Blackness is so, I'm now thinking, oh God, Mathe, all you're talking about is Black, but it's my reference point, and I apologize if I'm offending anybody, but the way we were raised as Black kids, and is about respecting your elders, humility, and recognizing that other person is a person. And so for me, don't ever forget where you came from. Even if your circumstances were bad, because some of us didn't grow up in privileged circumstances. They were bad and they were hard, but there are gems from those bad circumstances that you will continue to carry with you because of the nature of your Blackness or the nature of where you come from.
Yeah.
We care about our people. This individualistic approach that we are now on, where we are flossing material things, where we are making another person feel worse than the other person because they don't have this kind of car or this kind of shoe. For me, those are the things that I did not grow up with. My mother raised me to be a child who cares about other people. That's number one. Number two, be committed to your own dreams. Don't be committed to other people's dreams. your own dreams, because when you are sitting by yourself at night and you're alone in your room and you can only look at yourself in the mirror, you know what you really want in your gut, in your heart, mind, you know it. Once you commit to that and you drive towards it, everything that you do will be focused on getting that. But if you lose track of your commitment, you are going to lose your way. And I'm not saying ignore other people, but I'm saying believe in yourself. You have validity. Every single one of us has validity. And in having that validity, drive yourself towards your goal. And set a goal. Let's start there. Set a goal. Because if you don't set a goal, you won't recognize who you are. You won't understand who you are and what you can do. And I'll give you a little scenario about my life. Before I got this position,
Yes.
I was looking for very junior positions. And I didn't understand who I was. I had diminished myself. I didn't want to raise myself. So I diminished myself to be small because my circumstances of my life had made me small. A broken marriage, cancer, infested, lost job, made me diminish myself to a smallness. So when you diminish yourself to that smallness, your dreams and your goals become small. They don't become big. But it takes one person to see your bigness to give you that big opportunity. Okay. And when that one person sees your bigness, because when you go in front of people, they see your bigness. But when you sit by yourself, you like, I'm not worth that. Then somebody sees that you are worth that, and somebody gives you that chance. And then once you've got it, you realize how big you are, that you are a giant, and you're not a small person. And I know a lot of us like to diminish ourselves because we like, misery loves company, as the Abelungu say. Yeah. And in misery loving company, I failed here, I failed here, I failed here. You have cheerleaders and your own friends will be like, yes, you failed. Yes, you failed. Because they are greater than you. And they are seeing their own greatness, but do not want to lift you and make you great. There's enough space for everybody. There's enough space for everybody. So also, the people you surround yourself with are going to be those who support and encourage your dreams and make you bigger than you see yourself. They push you and say, hey, Hazel, you're not that small. You can do this. Go for it. You can do this. Go for it. And I've got girlfriends who are like that. Because they are sitting at also very senior positions, but they don't diminish me just because they're sitting at senior positions.
Correct.
You know, they're not like, Mathe, but you are. Yeah, they lift, they say, you can do it, my friend. You can do it. Let's go for it. And when you have people like that around you, women like that around you, men like that around you, because I never want to exclude the men, because we are who we are through the support of very amazing men around us. And I can speak to that because there are some amazing men that pushed me and encouraged me to get where I am today.
I like that, Mathe. Cheers to the people that see the bigness in us, you know. Yeah. Cheers to them. And I want to actually ask you, now, yes, Mathe, when you're going to be my mentor. Anyways, off to you. I want to say, Uguti, you know, it's a beautiful term. You know, when people are sitting there and they're like, oh no, my mentor is, Mate, or, Caesar, all these big people. And I sit there and I'm like, guys, I tried it. I won't lie to you. I tried it. I worked at for an insurance company before, and there was one lady in particular that was doing very well, and I remember sitting in her office on a Friday. So I'm like, yo, so keen. I want to learn so much more, all I did was listen, which is very important. Listening is very important. But I didn't know why I was there, or what was I supposed to do with information once I've listened and I've, because all it is now is it's no longer transactional. It's more of I'm giving you this information, but what then do I do with it, So I wanted to actually ask you, do you believe in mentorship? And what is a successful relationship between a mentee and a mentor,
Oh, I believe in mentorship big time, because I never had a mentor in my career.
Okay.
And I believe in it big time, because especially in our current dynamics in terms of in the business environment, where women think, let me not say women, where people think women don't want other women to succeed. I like to prove that wrong. I absolutely like to prove that wrong, because for me, the more we sit around the boardroom table as women, the more our perception will change with men. The more men will kind of start understanding who we are as women. So for me, mentorship is, I had a mentee at some point.
Okay.
The mentee disappeared on me. And because I give tasks and I give timelines, and I put you in my diary. I had put her in my diary to say, okay, I'm giving you a task. This is what you're going to do in the next few weeks. In 6 weeks' time, you come back to me and you tell me how far you are. So because there's no point in me mentoring you or mentoring anybody, and we have no goals and direction, and we have no milestones to achieve. We need to achieve those milestones and say, we've done it. This is what we've done. But I think it happens at some point in time when you are giving somebody tasks that are difficult and that are real.
Okay.
Because, yes, because being a mentee, when they have to be real with themselves to say, am I in the right career? Am I in the right space? Am I supposed to be doing this? Because your mentor is asking those questions and you must come back and answer them. And you are not able to answer them, you disappear. And you are not able to create your own career path and vision board and say, okay, this is my vision board. This is where I'd like to be. In 6 months' time, this is where I'd like to be. In 2 years' time, this is where I'd like to be. In 5 years' time, this is where, and you're not able to activate those things. Then why are they your dreams if you are not going to be doing anything about getting there?
Sure.
So for me, mentorship is an engaged process. It's not I'm giving you information and telling you what to do. That's not mentorship. Because also mentorship is about me as a mentor growing through this engagement with my mentee. It's a two-way process. So for as long as you see it as a one-way process, you're not going to get very far. But for me, it has to add to my life as well as Mate. That the things that I'm saying to you, am I doing them? Because there's no point in me saying certain things to you and you are not doing, and I'm not doing them. What is the point?
What's the point?
Yeah. So for me, mentorship is critical.
It works.
And especially for young people to be included in our economy. And to create access for our young people, it is important for us to mentor people.
Mentor people. Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I think you've really changed my narrative on that one. I'll come by. I'll swing by.
For me, you need to be committed to your mentorship process. Yeah.
And
if people are not committed to their mentorship process, then you're never going to see it going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. And especially just knowing that it's not going to be all sweet, you know, sometimes it will be uncomfortable because
yes, and difficult.
Yeah.
And difficult. And sometimes I will be that honest person and say, but this is useless what you're doing. What's the point of what you're doing? You know, where is it going to get you? And that's a conversation we'd be able to have. And we should be able to have honest conversations, not destructive conversations, because I'm not in it to destroy you. I'm in it to build you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I know transformation. I know I'm looking at my questions here on the side. I see a couple of transformation questions, and I'm sure you've been asked this so many million times.
Yeah.
I want to just focus on, I mean, we're all aware it's always been like a very contentious issue for many years. And as women sitting at the helm of the actual body that presents the majority of our agencies, you know, and all these PR guys playing, you know, in the big field, I want to know, what do you think are some of the challenges, you know, that advertising and communications, the industry itself, you know, is faced, you know, and what is stopping us from actually transforming, you know, our space?
Yeah, this question is.
Hey, I'm sure
it's like a cross. It's like a cross like this. It's a heavy question. You know, I don't have the right answers. I do not have the right answers with regards to transformation, but I have some answers, all right, that I can aid thinking.
Yeah. And
we all have different answers, all right? And we all have different narratives when we talk transformation. Mathe, as a Black woman, I have a different conversation with as Busiso as a Black man, and Pete van Donner as a white male,
yes,
and Karen as a white chick. Do you know? Those people have their own different perspectives on what transformation should be and what it is, all right?
Okay.
Now, I think there's always been this thing of transformation is more spoken about by Black people. We are always the ones talking transformation. And we're talking about transformation in businesses that we don't own. We don't own those businesses. They are owned by white boys. What is the conversation that is happening by white boys about transformation? Okay? So that's one thing we need to ask ourselves, to say, us as Black people, we keep on saying, yes, we need the industry to transform. This is how it must transform. This is what it must do. This is what it must do. But where it needs to transform is the conversation with the owners of these businesses. All right? And yes, in our industry, there's been leaps and bounds of transformed agencies. There's been agencies that are assisting small Black agencies to come into the fold and incubate them and ensure that they succeed in our environment. Okay. Have we done the best we can do in terms of transformation? No, we haven't. No, we haven't. And no, we haven't, because if you put up, and I'm going to mention his name, Mzamo Masito, put up a slide at the IMC conference of who the leaders in the industry are. There's a whole lot of white males and sprecklings of Black females. Okay, sprecklings, 1, 2, 3, and then there's 100 white males. And then you ask yourself, why is this picture still looking like this 26 years into our democracy? How is it still looking like this? And do I have the answer for you? I don't. And that's honest to God's truth. I don't. Do I want to be accusatory to certain people? No, I don't, because I need to engage the people who have not transformed their businesses or make their businesses be reflective of what our country looks like. I need to engage them to say, okay, how do we make the changes that are necessary in order for us to see an industry that is transformed? And transformation is not only on racial lines, it's on sexual lines, it's on gender lines. So though there are levers, tentacles to transformation. Black female leadership. Are there a lot of Black female leaders within our industry? Hell no. And that is the truth. You know? Can Mathe do anything about it? Yes, I can. Engage the people who are not seeing the need to transform.
Okay. Oh, you have a very big job on your plate.
Oh my
honestly.
goodness.
You really do.
Yeah.
Mathe, I think, you know what, our viewers here, I think we'll have to just address them in private, but I think we've covered most of the questions that they have asked within the questions I've asked you today. I do want to say thank you. Time really flies when you're having so much fun. And I do have to let you go, unfortunately. Thank you so much to all our viewers and you for your time. Oh, really, really appreciate it. I really do.
Thank you for the conversation. It was great. And thank you to Pat for inviting me.
Me too. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Pat, again for the platform. It's really, really amazing. And I look forward to seeing the rest of the Imbokodo editions coming up this August. So guys, please do stay, tuned to the channels. We really, really do appreciate you all for viewing and all the thumbs up and the support. We appreciate it. To women leadership.
Viva!
Woman, thank you guys.
It's Pat on Brands. Watch how you brand it, man. A pat on the back is a pat from the man.